Welcome to Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We talk race reviews, news from the paddock, and bring you everything from the world of Formula One. And now your hosts, Drew, Walker, Ed, and Tomas.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We're back here with a full crew today. First one of the season. We are here with Ed, Thomas, Drew, and I'm Walker. Last episode, we kind of dove right into all the craziness that was Formula One. It seemed to kind of just start off with a bang with tons of news, tons of changes. You got Lewis, you've got new rules coming into play. And I feel like we just barely scratched the surface last week, I should say. I think one of the big topics that we did not touch on, which was, I think that news really just came out just before we hit record, was Christian Horner and all of the controversy happening around the Red Bull camp right now. I want to get your initial takes on it before we dive in. Ed, you want to start us off? What's your take on this?
Yeah, well, for me, the whole situation in itself is just like another Me Too situation. I personally wouldn't say anything besides just the speculation of Christian Horner being gone. Like, he's been there for the longest time with, well, technically right now, 2 champions under his belt that he was team principal. So it'll be a mess. And who's going to replace him? How that situation is going to be like? I mean, I'm thinking more future wise than anything else. So yeah, I really want him to stay because I can't miss out on the fights between him and Toto Wolff. Those arguments. I mean, it's part of our intro. So fix your car, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Thomas, how about you? We haven't heard from you since last week. What's happening, brother?
It's nice to be back with the boys. Sorry about last week, but no more missing out on these podcasts. You know, they're a big part of my life, but basically gonna jump right into it. I hope Christian Horner is not going to be gone. He's been there since, I think, 2005, one of the longest team principals on the grid. I have mixed feelings about him in regards. Some days I really like him, other days I really hate him, but I think he's a cool character. The whole thing with what's going on to me seems very, very sus, almost as if someone is setting him up. I don't know why I'm saying this, but it's just some sort of gut feeling like this seems a little bit suspicious that this is happening at this point in time, right before, the season begins. So just an internal feeling that something's a little bit off in regards to the situation, and I'm waiting to hear more news and exactly what's up. So those are my thoughts. Drew?
I'm going to go on the pretenses of like innocent until proven guilty. And like, I know all these newsmongers and stuff are jumping all over it. They want the clickbait and Christian Horner is obviously a high profile target. And I think, Thomas hit on it that obviously no one knows. They've been super tight lipped. So like nobody knows what's actually been the accusations, but Red Bull's made no comment until things come into light. Christian Horner's clearly not making any comments until everything gets released. They're doing an internal investigation with a third party, like everyone would be doing in this scenario. But ultimately, like, do I think, I don't even know. I don't know what happened, so I can't say whether I think he did or didn't do it because we don't even know what happened. But like, is he getting Me Too'd? Yeah, probably. I think that's the reality of it. And, all the news sources that I've read and stuff are like, Christian's not going to make it. They're going to have to ask him to step down. They're going to, politely ask him to leave. So we'll see what that situation looks like, to be honest. Like, did he get handsy? Maybe. Was it at a Christmas party? Probably. You know what I mean? Like, who knows what's going on? Like, is this the first time it's going to happen? I don't know. But, to what Ed and Thomas already said, he's a perfect villain. Like without him, like Toto Wolff and him, like there's no back and forth. Like you need the frick to have the frack, you know? So I think as far as entertainment value is concerned, I quite like Christian Horner. You know what I mean? I'm not a big fan of Red Bull because I'm a Mercedes fan. So naturally that's our like arch nemesis, but you need to have them. Without the villain, there's no hero. So I'd love to see him stick around. I actually think he's a great team principal. I would, Christian Horner is a guy you'd love to have in your corner. But I think that, there's other things at play, and Red Bull has to keep face, and they have to, ensure that they're doing the right thing by whatever happened, whatever that is and whatever that looks like. Curious to see what you got going on with that one, Walker.
Yeah, so I'm going, I think we talk about, we've all kind of referenced like the caricature that is like Christian Horner, right? And the part and the place he has in Formula One in terms of like his entertainment value, right? And how he leads his team, and it's him and Toto and going at it. The other side of me wants to look at it as like, this is also a real issue potentially, right? That someone has obviously brought up, right? We can all speculate on the timing of it, or, why now? Like, I'm not actually sure what the timeline of this was. I don't know if any of you know if we've seen like when like this allegedly happened, if it was, in the recent past, or are we talking like years ago? Because, that can all lead to its own speculation in terms of it. I think it's going to be important for him to, or more so for Red Bull. I think they've done like a pretty decent job in terms of controlling the narrative so far. Obviously he's been tight-lipped, but they have to be seen to be going about this the right way, right? So independent investigation, whatever it might be, I think they have to take the necessary steps to make sure that they're handling this properly, and that, if there was any indiscretion or was any wrongdoing or whatever it is, that they deal with that appropriately. Entertainment wise, he's great. He's one of those people that you love to hate. But I think in this case, we have to look past that. That said, one article I did read, which is all a fucking gossip, is talking about how internally you have like Helmut Marko like saying Christian's got to go, he's got to be out of here, like he can't be the leader anymore. So when you have like those kind of voices, speaking up, especially given the type of relationship that Helmut and Christian had kind of like midway through, when he was making all those Spanish jokes,
racist
comments about like Checo and stuff like that. And who else? Somebody else. I can't remember now. Probably everybody. It makes you think that there is maybe a little bit of animosity there in terms of that. So, that leads to that speculation, like whether this is somewhat motivated by any potential grudges, and then obviously having those quotes in the media, whether that's true or not, whether Helmut actually said it or not, who knows? But it'll be interesting to see what happens. It'll be interesting to see that, if Christian ends up taking a fall for this, but Helmut is still kind of like hanging out on the back, being like, your old racist uncle, like we think we refer to him, right? Like it's be interesting to see how Red Bull prioritizes their scandals, essentially.
Yeah, what scandals worse?
Yeah.
I found it a little bit funny early on that Red Bull essentially right away, almost from what I remember, asked him to step down. Essentially, they wanted this situation to blow over, and I'm glad he said no. Like I didn't do nothing wrong, and I want a full investigation. So I was happy to see that from his side, that he wasn't just giving up essentially and moving away, because I'm pretty sure we're all interested to know and to see what exactly happened. So I don't know. I just found that whole situation a little bit strange, asking him to step down right away. And I get it why they want to, move on from the whole situation and that's it. But just something a little bit strange.
I mean, if you want to dig deeper into the conspiracy theory, Red Bull, their founder, died about a little over a year ago now, year and a half ago, right? So maybe whoever kind of stepped up in that place, maybe he and Christian don't see eye to eye. You never know, right? What's going on in this kind of organization, given the money and the stakes and the egos involved. But It's definitely going to be something to watch. Speaking of fucking up, let's change gears a little bit and talk about our new favorite team, or one of the favorite team names to enter the grid, is the Steak Sauber. I can't even remember what it was. Let's talk about Steak Sauber, because this
Steak
is actually
F1
pretty
team
hilarious.
kick Sauber.
Thank you. That's it. Which
Just
might
rolls
change.
off the tongue. Just rolls off
For
the
you.
tongue.
You've been practicing this, right?
I
'Cause
have
you
all
just nailed that.
day.
Yeah. 100% you have been. Because I think there's an interesting story there, Drew. You want to bring this up.
Yeah, no,
and
I just
maybe that name won't even be relevant anymore.
Well, that's the thing, right? So, it was Alfa Romeo previously, and Alfa Romeo's, based out of Italy, but the Steak Sauber team is based out of Switzerland, and Switzerland has some heavy legislation and, I guess, laws against gambling websites and gambling, I guess, anything being sponsored. Much like Canada, we got rid of all the cigarette sponsors, all that kind of nicotine, all that stuff happened. But Switzerland has a hard no on that, and since the Sauber team's based out of Switzerland, then they got to shut it down. So, we got really excited about the livery last week, and I'm still very excited about it. I saw the rolling chassis today on out in Silverstone or wherever they were rolling that car out, and Steak was still on the side. So I don't know what they're going to do prior to racing, but as far as I'm understanding it, the Steak name's got to go, and I don't know. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but I can't remember what country it was. I'm pretty sure it was Singapore last year when
it was the Dutch Grand Prix.
Was it the Dutch Grand Prix with McLaren?
They had Velo and Love.
Velo, yeah, they had to switch the words. So maybe it's skate instead of steak or something like that. You know what I mean? They're just gonna have to, we're just gonna have to switch it up at least. But that's the thing. It's not that they're racing in Switzerland. It's that the company's based out of Switzerland. So I don't know what they're going to do, because it's the Steak F1 team. So, like, what are we going to do? I don't know how this got, tossed under the rug, or this wild oversight that your main sponsor is a gambling web. Like, how many people did this pass through before they said it was okay? Anyways, I just thought it was a point to bring up, because, like, we're getting down to the wire. Like, it's happening in a few days. You know what I mean? Like, the cars are on track soon. And if your major sponsor can't sponsor you, you guys got to figure some shit out. So that's just my 2 cents on that.
Ed, you want to add something there?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's all about dollars at this point. Like, if they were able to change Love to Velo, they could probably put, like, an emoji of a steak on top, whatever it is in terms of, like, the play or design. I don't think that should be an issue.
But it's not a race thing. Like, that's the thing. They could turn Velo into Love for one race, but when your entire name is based off this whole thing, like, you got to go back to the drawing board. So, like, that's why I'm curious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
but I find that it's going to be a pain in the ass. Remember, like, what happened with Haas, when midway through they had to remove Ural Kali from their logo. So we'll see. They can probably just change it, but it's going to be a money issue at this point. But again, is Sauber really going to be fighting for anything?
So what
sorry,
what
go
I
ahead,
was
Thomas.
gonna what I was gonna add, since they're based in Switzerland, can they technically move their company for an X amount of time somewhere else, so they could kind of walk around this, or is that a no-go? Like, that's what I'm also not understanding, or they're kind of stuck in Switzerland, they have to abide by those rules.
Well, I think that's a pretty big undertaking to kind of, like, corporately relocate your entire, something like Sauber, like, to a different country. I was just looking it up. So it looks like the Steak sponsorship is worth somewhere around $120 million Canadian. So, to Drew's point, you got to think, like, how many checks and, like, how is this overlooked? Like, how did they not have, like, a massive legal team saying, guys, there's a little thing in, like, the Switzerland laws that are going to prevent us from actually having the name on the car. Like, who is in charge of this, right? And how are they going to navigate that? And it's not really about the name either, right? It's about, like, they can change it to whatever they want, but I wonder if it's still going to impact their funding and their financing, because at the end of the day, the company it's a gambling entity,
Yeah.
right? Regardless of what they call it on there. I'm wondering how that would shake down, and then exactly how that's going to work. I mean, they probably have, I don't know. I don't have the answers, but
You know what?
it's
Based on what
interesting
we do with our money
place.
and how people are like, oh, I'll put it in a Swiss bank account. I'm sure there's some legal eagles there that found a loophole, and they're just going to slide it right in there. And they're going to, much to Thomas's point, just change the corporation and just have like the Stake F1 Team Corp based out of Honolulu or some shit. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden they can dance around that law or whatever. And I'm sure it'll be a situation like that. But, back to our points of it being a wildly huge oversight at this point. But I think we've kicked that thing to death.
Fair enough.
Kicked.
Moving on.
No pun intended.
No, all the puns intended.
All the puns intended. Was that intended? I don't know. That seemed like it was almost too casual.
You're welcome.
We've had a few more liveries released since last week. We had the Visa Cash app Redbulls, Racing Bulls, all pretty much all white, at least in terms of the racing suits, and then a little bit of white and blue for the cars. Personally, those ones did nothing for me. Any commentary here before we get to the good stuff?
It was okay at best.
Okay, at best, yeah.
Like it went back to, AlphaTauri kind of feel. What were they before AlphaTauri?
Toro Rosso.
Very Toro Rosso vibes. I was catching some Toro Rosso vibes big time.
But I actually like the Toro Rosso cars.
I didn't hate it. That's what I said. It's just okay.
Yeah, they were a little bit more selective, I guess, in terms of like their palette and how they use it. But and then we also, so far, we've seen McLaren, we've seen Aston and Ferrari just pop out. Any thoughts there? Or just still pretty cars, pretty colors, pretty cars?
I want to jump in here quick. These launches are all great. I think when you see a real car in real life, under the lights, under the street circuits, under whatever's like outside, it's a very different looking car. Like, you can have all these 3D renderings and you can do these launches in like the whatever lighting conditions you want to have them in. But like when you see them all like rolling on track, it's a very different car. My favorite one right now is probably the Ferrari livery. I didn't mind that one at all. I really like the Stake F1 Team Kick Sauber. I think that green machine is going to be really cool, and I saw it roll out today in the Real Deal, and I thought it was really, really good. But yeah, I don't know. It's okay. I'm looking forward to Mercedes launch tomorrow, so we'll see what that looks like.
I mean, so far, most of like the cars in itself, like I really, really like the green on the Stake Sauber. And I don't know if it's me, but it feels like the Ferrari livery and even the race suits too. It's like they're bringing back like the old designs. They're bringing back the old flair, the classical flair of their old liveries, because they kind of they steered a few years when I think it was when Vettel started, when they had a Chinese sponsor like Wei Chen or something. Yeah, their designs were like weird, but like this year they're going a little bit more classical. But kudos to Stake Sauber and that mean green machine. So I'm excited to see how that looks. I hope they still keep that Stake name. It'll be nice. Piss everyone off. Try to say the name, but got to be different a little bit this year. Thomas.
With these liveries, a Stake, again, one of my favorite ones, and I'm not saying just because Valtteri bought us. I think it's a really, really sick livery. Ferrari is good too. Aston Martin is good too. The other ones I don't really care for, honestly. Like, same to Drew's point, Red Bull, From what I gathered online, some people absolutely loved it. And then there's us that are like exactly what you said, okay at best, and it's nothing special in my eyes either. So for the other teams, I don't really care except the ones I really mentioned right now. McLaren looks the same to me, more or less. Ferrari again, Aston Martin looks more or less the same, and which is fine. They're gorgeous cars. Yeah, Walker.
I think I don't know, nothing too exciting. Even the green one. I mean, the green's not my flavor of green, so I probably will lean more towards some of like the more traditional classic liveries like the Aston, the Ferrari. But Mercedes is gonna be black, Red Bull is gonna be blue. Like it's all gonna be different shades of kind of the same of what we've seen. Nothing super innovative or enticing. Except for carbon. Apparently there's lots of carbon fiber this year. I haven't been paying that much attention, but carbon fiber seems to be a pretty consistent trend.
But what kind of weave, though? Everyone's got the carbon
I saw
fiber,
that.
but what's the weave, right? Everyone's got to check the weave. So, yeah, I agree. Honestly, I liked that the Williams car paid homage to Frank Williams, and they kind of like dug that little like fin arrow kind of thing underneath there. I thought that was quite classy of them. But yeah, I'm with you guys on that. Like, it was nothing's really been like outstanding. The Aston Martin car, I want to see it. Like I said, I want to see it in daylight because like I love that Aston Martin green. I really like their livery since it's been a switch over from Aston Martin or to Aston Martin. So I'm really curious to see what that looks like in on track in real time.
I actually will say that Williams car is probably it would be one of my favorites if they got rid of that fucking Duracell battery on top, like sitting right on top. Perfect like product placement. I get it, but it just kills the whole vibe. It's like it would be such a beautiful car without that gold like tip.
Just a
Don't
tip.
like the tip. Don't like the tip.
Just a
no
tip.
tip for me.
That's it.
No tip. Let's so we're kind of hot and cold on the liveries. I want to move on to something else that we were a little hot and cold on last year, and that was the sprint weekend format. So before we started recording, we sat here collectively for about 10 minutes trying to actually figure out what the change was. And it took us a while to figure out, but I think we got it. As a quick recap, essentially what they've done is they've taken the GP and the sprint qualifying sessions and swapped them. So previously it was free practice 1, GP qualifying on Friday. Then you had the sprint qualifying and the sprint race on Saturday. Now we have FP1. We have qualifying for the Grand Prix on Friday. And nope, I fucked it up again.
We already fucked up.
We already fucked it up. We got sprint qualifying and FP1 on Friday, GP qualifying and the sprint race on Saturday. And then the race on Sunday.
Yeah,
and GP always on
GP
Sunday.
always
See, it
on
was
Sunday.
still confusing. Reactions, thoughts? Is this going to make it any better, any worse? What do we think?
I think it brings it back more towards the classicness of it. Like, I think having the qualies closer to Sunday gives everyone a little bit more time to see what that car looks like, so that the qualies are more demonstrative of what the car is actually capable of with a little bit of tuning. They have a little bit more time with it, especially because you're losing FP2 and FP3. So if you're going to lose those, at least you have a little more time with the car. Because I think qualifying on Friday after just FP1 wasn't doing anyone justice. And I think that, if you want to see an apples to apples races on Sunday, I think that was just a better play. But like, is it a huge switch up? No. Was it needed? It was something that we didn't even know we needed.
Oh, I knew we needed it, but more on that later. Thomas, what do you think?
To me personally, I don't care. I could care less if they kept it the same or they switched it up. It makes no difference to me. I do enjoy watching the qualies and the sprints and all that. it's cool that they're trying something new. We're gonna see if it, to Drew's point, if it actually makes some sort of difference. But again, short and sweet to me, does not matter. It doesn't make any sense. I think they're just trying something different and see whether it sticks or not. Ed?
Well, before I start, for our faithful listeners, if we did get it wrong right now, we're not even sure if it's right, please blast us in the comments. I want to hear what you guys have to say. But yeah, I like, from a racing point of view, I find that it's pretty smart that they put together the what do you call this? Free practice, and then, please correct me if I'm wrong on this one. I believe
We will.
FP of course. On Friday is free practice and sprint qualifying, correct?
Yes, correct.
All right.
So
So
far, so good.
for me, I find that that's testing day. So yeah, free practice for free practice 2 and 3 is gone, but you have actual race conditions for free practice 1 to see what else is new, and then qualifying to do fine test tuning on the actual car. When you move into Saturday, you have the actual sprint race. Apply all your setup, and then the following is
GP
the
quality.
qualifying, GP quality. Thank you. So you've done your full testing, you've warmed up the car, you've had actual track head to head. Now you test the actual speed of the car for GP qualifying, fine tune everything. Then Sunday you got the best setup. So I think for me, from a technical standpoint and logistical standpoint of setting up the car properly, like, that would be a really, I don't know, I find that that's pretty smart they did it that way.
Yeah, Ed, I agree with you on that part. So I think one of my biggest issues with sprint weekends last year was how limited they were with time on track before locking in a setup, and I think it really compromised race days. So I like that they're going to have a little bit more time. 2 questions that we don't have answers to yet, at least I don't believe we do, is one, when does Parc Ferm come into effect? Is it going to be after FP1 still, which I think would be a big mistake? Is it going to be after the sprint quali or beyond? That's one thing we don't know. The second question I have is, on the Saturday, what's the schedule? Do you do practice? Sorry, would you do quali and then sprint race, or do you sprint race and then quali? Because I think, to Ed's point, you are going to get a lot of information on how the car is going to handle on that track, both from a qualifying perspective, probably because sprints are generally all out, and also from a race perspective for longer runs. So I would be curious to know what order they're going to be in and when Parc Ferm comes into effect as well. But I don't know if we have any of those.
Very analytical point. I appreciate your point there. That's a very
well. Thank you. Super analytical.
Yeah, it was very deep.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that affirmation. Beyond that, we are 7-8 days away.
8 days
from testing commencing, and the fact that I am looking forward to testing this much is a little pathetic, but it is what it is. I'm okay with it. What is it too soon? We're gonna have one more show before testing officially kicks in. Is it too soon to give predictions?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we need to see all the liveries first,
and the aero package.
Nah, the liveries are going to dictate speed for sure. Whoever's got the best looking livery is going to win 100%.
Well, then the black one has to be the fastest, doesn't it?
Exposed carbon fiber, weight reduction,
just bro. The rule. Just the way of nature, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I mean, is it too early for predictions? You know what? No. I retract my answer. Let's take that all back. Let's get some early predictions out of the boys. Let's do it.
Yeah, I was going to say, you're a little soft there, Drew. You were kind of like...
It was soft.
I don't want to make them... I want to see more of the analytics.
Yeah, I know.
You're so analytical in season 2. the podcast. Who knew?
You know what? No, I'm not. I'm actually less analytical, to be honest. I tried to
Now you
take this last
fucking
year's
throw
way
it
too
all away, huh?
seriously. Yeah, fuck,
Yeah.
whatever. Who cares?
Okay, so one big prediction each. Who wants to go first? Drew, you gonna throw it out there?
I think McLaren and Aston Martin are going to be further apart than they were last year. I think McLaren's end of season showed their true colors, and I think the end of Aston Martin's season showed their true colors. I think there was a couple of blips at the beginning that McLaren hadn't figured out. I think the wind tunnel did them really well, and I hope they come out guns blazing. And I personally, I think the gap between Mercedes and Ferrari might be bigger this year. I think that because that got down to 1 point in the last race with Lewis over Leclerc, like that was an arguably similar season. I think that gap's going to get a little bit bigger this year. From what I've heard,
Who's gonna be ahead?
what do you mean?
Who's moving ahead? Like, where you're saying bigger in which regard? Like, who's in front?
Yeah, who's up, who's down?
Oh, I think Mercedes is going to be up.
Okay.
I think from what I learned, they did a whole refresh on kind of how they position the car. I was reading today that Ferrari says they have a 95% different car. Now, if the other missing 5% is the fact that the car has 4 fucking wheels, just like it did last year, then like, let's call it a whole new car. From what I've read and heard, I heard Haas is pretty much thrown in the towel already. And I heard Alpine's done something very similar to just saying that, like, we don't have high hopes for this year. And that's like, that's not what you need going into a fight. You know what I mean? Like, you need to
No.
think you're going to win. Otherwise, you have no chance. And so, you know, coming out of those two camps, I just think that there's, I just think it's not starting off too well. So yeah, that's kind of where I said I think Red Bull's still going to be taking it away, and that's just because, from my understanding, halfway through, a third of the way through the year, they'd stopped working on 2023 and they were already starting on 2024. So, if any of that's true, we're gonna find out real quick.
I wanna say, I hope this isn't true, but it probably is. Red Bull is still gonna kill it. Mercedes, I don't know how I feel about Mercedes. I hope they're gonna come back and actually give Red Bull a challenge, but I don't know. Time will tell. And the rest behind them, Ferrari, no high hopes. I have higher hopes. For third place, either Aston Martin or McLaren. I don't know why. Again, internal gut feeling. Something saying Ferrari's not gonna bring it up to plate. They did decent last year, but I think there was a little bit too much of a shakeup very, very recently. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But that's what I think, Ed.
Well, I want to start with Haas, and I think I'm gonna call this portion Ed's shout out. Gene, just leave the damn sport. Just give it to the Andretti's, for Christ's sake, please. Okay, we're done here. Like,
There
you're
goes
done.
our Haas
Get out.
sponsorship now.
Yeah, we forgot
Just
to tell you,
fucking-
Ed,
just-
before we hit record, Gene actually reached out and wanted to sponsor the podcast.
Yeah.
No, he can still go. I'm going to keep journalistic integrity. As if I'm doing any
What the fuck is
journalism in
that?
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard
You're on
both of
your own,
those
buddy.
words,
Start
but
your own
never in that
podcast.
order.
Okay, so yeah, like the bottom feeders, which technically is Haas, Williams. I don't know if Alpine is they're bottom, mid. I don't know. And then yeah, those teams I doubt that there would be any changes. Williams, maybe. We'll never know if there are new stuff coming from Mercedes, and Williams is probably gonna get a touch of it a little bit, and then same with Aston Martin. But my real hope this year is McLaren making a run after both Ferrari and Mercedes, and really sticking to their word that they said that they were going to take it to Red Bull for this year. So I'm really hoping for that one. From the point of Mercedes and Ferrari, I don't know, consistency has been like the main issue for both teams. Ferrari had some really good spurts on different races. They won a race last year, but reliability wise and how consistent their car is, not so great. And we have consistency also for Mercedes. They were consistently bad the entire season. So, are they going to make some changes? I don't know. We'll see. But at this point, I really want a good shakeup, even if we all know that Red Bull is going to take it. I really want a good shakeup from what McLaren said. So, McLaren, please sponsor us because I'm rooting for it.
I look
Like
great
it
in
really
papaya.
makes sense. Yeah, I will. I love orange.
Does anyone else want Mercedes to do like a nice glow up and like just as like Lewis, the ex-girlfriend, leaves, Mercedes just starts smashing it. And then he's like, fuck, I already
I
signed
have a
that contract.
feeling that they will.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Like I deep down, I think
Yes.
that they're gonna be like turning everything up and like they're gonna be like, Lewis isn't gonna want to leave us. Let's make this so hot that he can't leave us.
Wishful thinking, Drew. Wishful thinking.
It is, I know it is. It is. Walker, what do you got on this one, man? I want to hear your predictions.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to give a few. I mean, technically I asked for one big prediction, but everyone kind of gave multiple. So here are my top three. Alpine is going to finish last. A Red Bull driver will not win the championship. And James Vowles, the team principal for Williams, is going to be the new paddock star. Those are my three predictions.
Damn.
Oh, that's
He's going to take the place
I like the
of
third
Gunther
one.
Steiner.
Yes.
He's going to be like the new Gunther Steiner, but like a nice, polite British version.
Yeah, but polite and well spoken. yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he's like very like media friendly. I think he has lots of stuff to share. His Instagram's actually really entertaining. He's very forthcoming with what they're doing there. So I think he's going to kind of take that spot as kind of like, you know, not obviously one of the top guys in terms of like their standing and stuff like that, but from like a media standpoint, I think he's going to steal the spotlight.
Okay, you know what?
I like how that's one you guys hang on to though.
No,
Yeah,
I
just
love
because.
it.
Yeah, well, Gunter's involved, so we have
Fair
to.
enough.
Yeah,
R.I.P.
in the spirit of your concise 3-point predictions for the year, I'm going to mimic it, just like Thomas and Ed are about to do after me. And I think that's quite clear because this can be noted and looked back upon much easier than the rambling that just happened. So I'm going to say that Carlos Sainz outperforms Charles Leclerc.
Sorry, hold on. Are you revising your big predictions, or are you just adding
No,
more?
the last
Because
time was just kind of like I didn't really have like 3 concise points. I just want to
but now
like
you're
have
having
something-
multiple big predictions, so you have more to fall back on. Anyways, carry on. Carlos Sainz, Leclerc, carry on. Whatever.
Yeah,
Competitive much?
I
Give
know,
yourself
right?
like a little bit of
Jesus.
extra margin.
Fucking hell. Yeah, Carlos Sainz is going to outperform Charles Leclerc. I think that Haas is going to be at the bottom of the list. And I think that, again, yeah, for sure. That's not really a bold prediction. It's just a prediction. It's almost a guaranteed. And I think that Christian Horner will remain the team principal at Red Bull. That's an early prediction.
Right.
That's not a wait till the end of the season. That's like a 2-week prediction.
That's 3 pretty safe predictions. Thank you, Drew. Thomas?
You know what? As Drew said that, I gotta go with him on this one. I cannot see Christian Horner leaving Red Bull.
No,
just
that's
can't
my
imagine.
prediction. Your prediction. What are your predictions? That's my prediction.
My prediction. My prediction? Okay.
Yeah.
3 concise predictions.
3 concise predictions. Red Bull is going to continue.
Think about this.
Shut the fuck up. Stop giving me shit. Let me talk. Now I lost my point. Anyways, Red Bull is going to kill it again. I think Stake Sauber F1 is not going to do as terrible as Alfa Romeo did. Again, they look fast. I think they're actually going to give other teams a little bit of a challenge. And And then as far for Mercedes, I don't see huge change in them. I think they're still gonna struggle this year. Those are my 3 predictions.
Okay, Ed, concise.
Concise, yeah.
You're up,
Jesus.
buddy.
Thomas, jeez.
Sergio Perez will not finish the year in Red Bull. He's going to get
Okay.
taken out.
Now we're talking bold. There we go.
Bold. I like
Let's
it.
go next.
McLaren wins drivers. And for me, it will be Piastri. Third, someone said Alpine's going to be at the bottom, right?
That was me.
That was you. Okay.
Hands off.
All right, relax. Aston Martin's going to be in a mid pack and is not going to be competing.
That's a fucking
That's-
fact. That's a fact. Give me a prediction. Okay,
A bold one. Come on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or any-
Like an unrealistic one. I mean, the first
Okay.
two are pretty unrealistic. Those are good. You just kind of settled with Aston at the end because you had nothing else coming up.
Yeah.
I don't know what else.
Haas is gonna win the championship. There you go.
No, that's impossible. Gene Haas, just leave. I don't know. It's impossible.
Okay, we'll go with two
I'll go with
concise
2.
predictions from Ed today. Boys, I think it's time to wrap. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes.
All
Yes.
the yes. I'm just thinking
Yeah.
of all the editing I have to do. I can't even do it tomorrow. I'm going to be in new. I got a bunch of shit to do. So like,
There's no editing. This is gonna be a piece of cake. Just let it roll. Let the people see we're down to earth. This is real talk, and this is just how it rolls sometimes. So thank you for listening.
This
by the
episode
way.
felt a little bit aggressive on all sides.
I think we're a little tense. It's a little tense.
Yeah.
I think you guys are a little fucking tense. Anyways, thank you for listening and being here, assuming you're still listening. We're going to be here next week with a slightly less tense episode. Maybe, maybe not. Tune in to find out. We'd love to hear everything you have to say. Come check us out on the Discord channel. Subscribe to the channels. Subscribe wherever you're listening to this. Spotify, Apple Music, and beyond. Anything else? Till next time.
That's it.
Later.
Ciao, ciao.
To Parc Ferm, the Canadian Formula One podcast. We talk race reviews, news from the paddock, and bring you everything from the world of Formula One. And now your hosts, Drew, Walker, Ed, and Tomas.